The sky over Tyrannus IV burned red with falling ships. Sergeant Marcus Chen pressed his back against a crumbling wall as another explosion shook the ground. Dust and debris rained down on his helmet. His cum unit crackled with dying screams and desperate orders that made no sense anymore. The colony was lost. Everyone knew it. But the Girak forces kept pushing, and the human defenders kept fighting because that was all they knew how to do after 12 years of war. Marcus ran through the smoke-filled streets, his rifle tight against his chest. Buildings that had been homes yesterday were burning skeletons today. He had stopped counting the bodies after the first 100. Humans and Girak, soldiers and civilians, all mixed together in death like they never could be in life. A plasma bolt screamed past his head. Marcus dove through a doorway into what used to be a school. The walls were covered with children's drawings. He tried not to look at them as he moved deeper into the building, searching for cover, for anything that might keep him alive another hour. That was when he heard it. A sound that did not belong in a war zone. Crying. Marcus froze. His finger tensed on the trigger. The Girak were known for their tricks, their traps. They could mimic human voices, lure soldiers into ambushes. He had seen good men die that way, but this was not a human sound. It was higher, with clicking undertones that rattled in the throat. A Girak sound. A child's sound. Marcus moved forward slowly. His training screamed at him to turn around, to get out, to call in an airstrike on this position. The Girak did not take prisoners. Humans returned the favor, but his feet kept moving. He found her in what had been a classroom. The roof had partially collapsed, letting in shafts of smoky light. A young Girak sat beside a body rocking back and forth, making that terrible crying sound. She could not have been more than 5 years old by human standards, though Marcus was not sure how Girak aged. The body beside her wore the simple clothes of a civilian. A caretaker, maybe, or a parent. Half the body was buried under rubble. The child looked up at Marcus with huge golden eyes. Her scales were a soft green, not yet hardened into the armored plates of adult Girak warriors. Blood dripped from a cut on her head. She stared at the human soldier and went very, very still. Marcus stared back. His rifle was pointed at her chest. One squeeze. That was all it would take. She was Girak, the enemy. The species that had killed his daughter 3 years ago in a raid on Mars Colony 7. The child whimpered. Marcus lowered his rifle. "It is okay," he said quietly. Though he knew she could not understand him, "It is okay." He took a step forward. The child tried to scramble backward but cried out in pain. Her leg was trapped under debris. She pulled at it desperately, those golden eyes fixed on Marcus with pure terror. Marcus set down his rifle and raised his hands. "Easy, easy. I am not going to hurt you." He knelt slowly and reached for the rubble, trapping her leg. The child hissed, showing small, sharp teeth, but she was too weak to do more. Marcus lifted the broken concrete carefully and freed her leg. It was badly bruised, but not broken. The child stared at him like he was a ghost. Before Marcus could decide what to do next, the building shook. Another bombing run. The Girak were hitting their own positions now, trying to flush out the last human defenders. The ceiling groaned dangerously. Marcus looked at the child, at the exits, at his rifle. Then he grabbed the child and pulled her close to his chest, curling his armored body around her small frame. She struggled for a moment, and went still as the world exploded above them. The ceiling came down. Marcus felt the impacts against his armor, felt the weight piling on top of them. He tucked his head down and held the child tighter, making himself into a shell around her. Something heavy hit his back, and he grunted in pain. More weight, more pressure. Then darkness and silence, except for the ringing in his ears. Time passed strangely in the dark. Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness. His armor's medical systems pumped him with stimulants and pain blockers. He could feel the child breathing against his chest, could hear her crying softly. When he could think clearly again, he realized they were trapped, completely buried. His suit had maybe 48 hours of air. The child had less. Marcus activated his helmet light. The child flinched from the brightness, then stared at his face through the visor. He smiled at her, though he was not sure she could understand the expression. Garak did not smile. He accessed his medkit with his free hand and pulled out a trauma patch. The child tried to pull away when he reached for her head wound, but there was nowhere to go in the tiny pocket of space. Marcus worked as gently as he could, cleaning and sealing the cut. The child watched him with those huge golden eyes. When he finished, she made a sound. A series of clicks and hums. Marcus's translator was damaged, giving him only fragments. A name, maybe. It sounded like Kessa to his ears. Kessa, he repeated. I am Marcus. She tilted her head, reptilian features, showing something he chose to interpret as curiosity. Marcus shared his water with her. She drank desperately, her small, clawed hands gripping the tube. He gave her half a ration bar. She sniffed it suspiciously, but hunger won out. She ate. They waited in the darkness together, the enemy soldier and the enemy child. Trapped in a tomb of their own species making, Marcus thought about his daughter Emma. She had been 7 when she died. He thought about how she used to be afraid of thunderstorms. How he would hold her just like this until the fear passed. Kessa made a small sound and pressed closer to him. Marcus held her and tried not to think about what would happen when rescue came. If rescue came, and which side would arrive first. Outside their bubble of rubble, the war continued to rage. But in the darkness, Marcus Chen did something he had not done in 12 years of fighting. He protected a Jirak life instead of taking it. 2 days passed in that darkness. Marcus's air supply dropped to critical levels. Kessa grew weaker, her breathing shallow. He held her and told her stories she could not understand. His voice the only sound in their tomb. Then he heard it. Digging, heavy equipment. Voices shouting in a language his damaged translator could not parse. Jirak voices. Light suddenly burst into their shelter. Armored figures moved through the gap, weapons ready. Marcus instinctively curled tighter around Kessa. Knowing it was useless, knowing his armor was almost out of power, knowing he was about to die, but the soldiers stopped. One of them, larger than the rest, stepped forward. Her armor bore the markings of high rank. She looked at Marcus, then at the small form in his arms. Kessa. The word was anguished, desperate. The child's head lifted weakly. Mama. The Jirak commander dropped to her knees and reached for the child. Marcus, operating on instinct and the last dregs of his strength, handed Kessa over carefully. The commander took her daughter and clutched her close, making sounds Marcus had never heard a Jirak make before. Sounds of relief and grief and joy, all mixed together. Then the commander's golden eyes fixed on Marcus. She said something in her language, sharp and commanding. Soldiers moved forward and grabbed Marcus, hauling him out of the rubble. He was too weak to resist. The commander stood, still holding Kessa, and spoke directly to Marcus. This time, one of the soldiers translated the words cold and formal. Commander Vishara says, "You have invoked Kreshva. You have saved the life of her blood. This cannot be forgiven. This cannot be forgotten. You are hers now, human. You belong to her house until the debt is paid in blood or in years. Do you understand?" Marcus looked at Kessa, who was staring at him over her mother's shoulder. He looked at Vishara, at the grief and gratitude warring in her alien features. He understood enough. "I understand," he said. The soldiers bound his hands. As they led him away to the transport ships, Marcus realized the war was over for him. But something else was just beginning. Something he could not yet name, with consequences he could not yet imagine. Behind him, Commander Vishara held her daughter and watched the human soldier who had chosen mercy over hate, compassion over revenge. And she knew her life had just become infinitely more complicated. Part 2. The debt that cannot be refused, the Jirak homeworld, was nothing like Marcus had imagined. He had spent 12 years fighting them, but he had never seen where they came from. The transport ship descended through purple-tinged clouds toward a city of crystalline towers that caught the light of 3 moons. Marcus sat in a detention cell that was too warm for human comfort, his wrists bound with energy cuffs that hummed against his skin. Through the transparent wall, he could see Jirac crew members moving past. Some glared at him with open hatred. Others looked at him with something he could not identify. The war had ended 3 days ago. A ceasefire agreement signed while Marcus was still buried in rubble with Kessa. The timing felt like a cruel joke. The cell door opened. Commander Vishara stood there, still in her battle armor, but with her helmet removed. Up close, without the filter of combat and adrenaline, Marcus could see her features clearly. Her scales were a deep bronze color, marked with scars from decades of fighting. Her eyes were the same golden shade as Kessa's, but harder, older. "Come," she said in accented but clear English. "We need to talk." Marcus stood carefully. His body still ached from the days buried under rubble. Vishara led him through the ship's corridors. Crew members stopped and stared. One hissed something that sounded like an insult. Vishara snapped a response that made the soldier go silent. She brought him to her quarters. The room was sparse, military efficient, but there were touches of personality. A small garden of bioluminescent plants in one corner, weapons mounted on the walls, and pictures. Digital frames showing Gyrak faces. A family. Kessa was there, sitting on a low bench, her injured leg wrapped in medical gel. When she saw Marcus, her eyes went wide and she made a happy clicking sound. "Kessa, no," Vishara said sharply. But the child had already limped over to Marcus, reaching up to grab his bound hands. Marcus knelt down to her level. "Hey, little one. Your leg okay?" Kessa clicked and hummed, pressing her small head against his arm. Vishara watched this with an unreadable expression. "Sit," Vishara commanded Marcus, gesturing to a chair designed for Gyrak physiology. It was uncomfortable, but he managed. Vishara remained standing, her posture radiating command authority. "Do you know what Kreshva means? Human?" "No," Marcus admitted. "It is a life debt, an ancient law among my people. When someone saves the life of another at risk to their own, they create a bond that cannot be broken by simple gratitude. You shielded my daughter with your body. You gave her your water when you were dying of thirst. You tended her wounds when you were wounded yourself." Vishara's voice was carefully controlled. "This creates obligation, responsibility, connection." Marcus waited. He had learned in 12 years of war that Gyrak did not waste words. "By our law, you are now Kessa's Kethver, her shield parent, a protector bound to her by more than blood. This role is sacred among our people. It cannot be refused. It cannot be undone except by death." "I do not understand," Marcus said carefully. "I am your prisoner?" "No." Vishara's eyes fixed on him with intensity. "You are my responsibility, my burden, my daughter's protector. I cannot kill you. I cannot release you. Other humans are being processed for prisoner exchange as part of the ceasefire. You cannot be exchanged. You are bound to my household now." Marcus felt the weight of her words. For how long? Until the debt is paid. By Gyrak law, that means either you die protecting her, or you serve until we both agree the life debt is satisfied. That could be years. Decades. Vishara turned away, her tail swishing with agitation. "I did not ask for this. I did not want a human in my house. But you saved her. You saved my last child." The way she said last child made Marcus look at the pictures on the wall again. He counted 4 young faces in one image. In the more recent pictures, there was only Kessa. "The others?" he asked quietly. "Dead human orbital strikes. 3 years ago." Vishara's voice was ice. "My mate died shielding them. It was not enough." Marcus felt like he had been punched. "I am sorry. Your sorrow changes nothing." Vishara turned back to him. "My people want you tried for war crimes. They want you executed publicly. There are politicians who say keeping you here is an insult to every Gyrak who lost family to human weapons. Do you understand the position you have put me in?" "Yes," Marcus said. He understood very well. But I invoked Kreshva before the military tribunal. I declared you Kethfer. I claimed you for my household. They cannot touch you now without declaring me an oathbreaker, and I am too valuable to the peace faction for them to do that. Vishara's laugh was bitter. So you are here, in my home. The human who saved my daughter? The same species that killed my sons? Kessa made a soft sound, pressing against Marcus's leg. He wanted to comfort her, but kept his hand still. Vishara walked to the window overlooking the city. Tomorrow, you will be given translator implants. You will learn our language properly. You will be assigned quarters in my compound. You will begin training in our ways. If you are to be Kessa's protector, you must be capable of protecting her. And if I refuse? Marcus asked. Vishara looked at him with something like pity. Then you break Kreshva. You become Oathbreaker. And Oathbreakers are hunted across every Xerox world until they are dead. There is nowhere in this galaxy you could hide. She paused. But you will not refuse. How do you know? Because you could have let my daughter die in that rubble. You could have saved your air, your water, your strength. But you did not. Whatever else you are, human, you are not someone who abandons children. Vishara's voice softened slightly. I have read your military file. I know about your daughter, Emma. I know what my people took from you. Marcus went very still. Do not speak her name. Why not? Because it hurts? Good, you should hurt. You should remember, just as I remember my sons. Vishara crossed her arms. We are both parents who have buried children, Marcus Chen. We are both soldiers who have done terrible things in war. And now we are bound together by the one child who survived. Life is cruel that way. The room was silent except for Kessa's soft breathing. She had fallen asleep against Marcus's leg, exhausted from her ordeal. Vishara's expression softened as she looked at her daughter. She has nightmares. Every night since her brothers died, she wakes screaming. The bombing on Tyrannus made it worse. The medics say she has trauma, that she needs time and safety to heal. She looked at Marcus. But last night on the ship, she slept through the night for the first time in 3 years. Because she knew you were nearby. Because somehow in that darkness, you became her safety. Marcus looked down at the small Girak child sleeping trustingly against him. He thought about Emma, about the daughter he could not save. About the enemy child he could? What do you want from me? He asked. I want you to stay alive. I want you to help Kessa heal. I want you to accept your place in this household, no matter how difficult. Vishara's voice was firm. And I want you to understand that I will be watching you, always. You are Kethfer by law, but you are still human. Still the enemy. If you threaten my daughter in any way, law or no law, I will kill you myself. Understood, Marcus said. Vishara moved to pick up Kessa, but the child whimpered and clung to Marcus. After a moment of hesitation, Vishara gestured for him to follow. Bring her. Her room is this way. Marcus carefully lifted Kessa. She was lighter than he expected, her scales warm against his arms. He followed Vishara through the quarters to a small room decorated with soft fabrics and more bioluminescent plants. Drawings covered one wall. Childish pictures of Garak and stars and creatures Marcus did not recognize. He laid Kessa gently on her sleeping platform. She mumbled something in her sleep and curled into a ball. Vishara covered her with a blanket. Her movements tender despite her harsh words earlier. They stood there for a moment, human and Girak. Looking down at the child who had bound them together. I do not know if I can forgive you for being human, Vishara said quietly. I do not know if you can forgive me for being Girak, but for her sake, we will try to coexist. For her sake, Marcus agreed. Vishara showed him to a small room near Kessa's. It was bare, but functional. Tomorrow, everything changes. You will be marked as household. You will begin learning our ways. It will be hard. I have survived 12 years of war, Marcus said. I can survive this. Vishara studied him with those golden eyes. War is simple. You fight or you die. This is more complicated. This is living with your enemy. This is watching your daughter love the one whose people killed your sons. Can you survive that? Marcus had no answer. Vishara left him alone in the small room. Through the wall, he could hear Kessa's quiet breathing. Outside the window, the alien city glowed under 3 moons. Somewhere out there, the rest of humanity was returning to their worlds. Going home to their families, Marcus Chen had no home anymore. Just a life debt to an enemy commander, a bond to an alien child, and the knowledge that he had chosen this the moment. He decided not to pull the trigger. He lay down on the sleeping platform and stared at the ceiling, wondering what he had truly saved that day in the rubble and what he had lost. Part 3. The human who learned to roar 6 months changed everything. Marcus stood in the training courtyard, sweat dripping down his face, his body aching from the morning sparring session. Around him, Garak warriors watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. He had just knocked one of their best fighters onto his back using a move that did not exist in their combat forms. The warrior, a male named Thresh, stood up slowly and gave Marcus a nod of grudging respect. You fight like prey that learned to bite back. On Earth, we call that survival, Marcus replied in fluent Jirak. The language had taken months to learn, but the translator implant helped. Now he could understand the insults as well as the rare compliments. Vishara watched from the shade of a training pavilion, her posture relaxed, but her eyes sharp. She missed nothing. Since Marcus had arrived, she had pushed him hard. Combat training, language lessons, cultural immersion, history classes about Jirak civilization. Again she called out. Thresh, this time, do not underestimate him. The next round was harder. Thresh came at Marcus with full force, no holding back. Marcus used his smaller size and human flexibility to his advantage, ducking under strikes that would have broken his bones, using momentum against his larger opponent. But Gyrak were stronger, and eventually Thresh pinned him to the ground. Better, Vishara said as they both stood. You are learning, slowly. Marcus wiped blood from his split lip. I am learning from the best. Something flickered in Vishara's eyes. Over the months, their relationship had shifted from pure hostility to something more complex. They were not friends, but they were not simply captor and prisoner anymore either. They were 2 warriors with a shared purpose, protecting Kessa. The child was the center of everything. She followed Marcus everywhere when he was not training, chattering in Yurak and broken English, showing him plants in the garden, teaching him games. Her nightmares had lessened. She smiled more. The trauma was still there, but it was healing. Marcus had not expected to care for her the way he did. But somewhere in the past months, Kessa had stopped being the enemy child and become simply a child. His child in a way that transcended species and circumstance. Come, Vishara said, dismissing the other warriors. Walk with me. They walked through the compound gardens, past fountains that sang with crystalline water sounds. Vishara was silent for a long time before speaking. I have been thinking about my sons, she said finally. Vek and Tresh and little Mika. I have been thinking about how they died. Marcus stayed quiet. Vishara rarely spoke about her lost children. Mika was Kessa's age when the orbital strike hit our shelter. My mate Korath covered them with his body, just like you covered Kessa. Her voice was steady, controlled. It was not enough. The heat, the pressure, they died instantly. I was away on deployment. I was not there to protect them. I'm sorry, Marcus said quietly. I blamed humans for 3 years. I wanted revenge. Every human I killed in battle, I thought maybe this would ease the pain. It never did. Ashara stopped walking and turned to face him. And then I find a human protecting my last child the same way my mate tried to protect our sons. Do you understand how that feels? Like the universe is mocking me, or maybe teaching you something, Marcus said carefully. Vishara laughed, a harsh sound. What lesson? That humans can be merciful? I knew that already. I have read your history. I know you are capable of great compassion and terrible cruelty, just like my people. The lesson is harder than that. What is it? That my hate will kill me if I let it. That Kessa needs more than a mother consumed by vengeance. She needs to see that enemies can become something else. Bishara started walking again. You make me face that every day. I hate it, and I need it. They reached a quiet corner of the garden where Kessa was playing with holographic puzzles, a Girok teacher watching over her. The child looked up and waved when she saw them. She is happy, Marcus observed. Yes, happier than she has been in years. You are good with her. Better than I expected. You could have resented this situation, been cruel in small ways, but you chose kindness. She is a child. She deserves kindness. So simple for you to say. So hard for me to accept that a human could genuinely care for my daughter. Vishara sighed. My people talk, Marcus. They say I have become weak, keeping you here. They say I dishonor my dead mate by letting his child bond with a human. Some call for my removal from command. Marcus felt a chill. What will you do? Keep you here. Keep protecting Kessa. Keep trying to make peace work. Vishara's jaw set with determination. But there are forces working against peace. Both human and Girok extremists who want the war to continue. I have received intelligence reports, troubling ones. Before Marcus could respond, alarms blared across the compound. Vishara's communication implant lit up, and she listened intently, her expression darkening. Threat detected, intruders. She turned to Marcus. Get Kessa to the safe room now. Marcus ran to Kessa, scooping her up as her teacher activated defensive protocols. It is okay, he told her, as she clung to him. Just a drill, but it was not a drill. Explosions rocked the compound. Marcus could see smoke rising from the main building. Girok, security forces mobilized, weapons ready. Marcus carried Kessa toward the reinforced shelter beneath the residential wing. Mama. Kessa cried, reaching back toward where Vishara was organizing the defense. She will be fine, Marcus promised, though fear gripped his heart. She is strong. She is commander. They made it to the shelter entrance. Other Girok families were already inside. They stared at Marcus with suspicion and fear. A human, here, during an attack. Some hissed accusations. Marcus ignored them and took Kessa to the far corner, keeping her close. The shelter doors sealed with a heavy thud. They could hear fighting above. The distinctive sound of plasma weapons, screaming. Kessa trembled in Marcus's arms. He held her and hummed a lullaby his mother used to sing to him. The Gyrak families around them watched this strange sight. The human soldier comforting the Gyrak child. The battle lasted 3 hours. When the all-clear finally sounded, Marcus emerged from the shelter, with Kessa still clinging to him. The compound was damaged but standing. Bodies lay in the courtyard, assassins in unmarked armor. Vishara stood among them, her armor scorched, blood on her claws. When she saw Kessa safe with Marcus, relief flooded her features. Mama. Kessa broke from Marcus and ran to her mother. Vishara caught her and held her close. Marcus approached. What happened? Assassins. Professional killers. They came for me. Vishara's voice was grim. They almost succeeded. One of the wounded assassins was being interrogated by security. Marcus could hear the questions, the demands for information. The assassins spat defiance. Then Marcus heard something that made his blood run cold. The assassin was speaking English. Marcus moved closer. Vishara noticed and gestured for the guards to let him near. You are human, Marcus said to the assassin. The man, young and fanatic-eyed, glared at him. Traitor. Living with the lizards. You disgust me, who sent you? Marcus demanded. The assassin laughed. People who want the war to continue? Human people. Gyrak people. Does not matter. You and that peace-loving commander are in the way. They will try again. They will keep trying until you are both dead. Vishara stepped forward, her presence commanding. Take him to interrogation. Find out everything. As the guards dragged the assassin away, Vishara turned to Marcus. She was breathing hard, adrenaline still pumping. He called you traitor, I know. Are you? A traitor to your species? Marcus looked at Kessa, who was watching them with wide, frightened eyes. He looked at Vishara, at this enemy commander who had become something more than enemy. I am loyal to my family, he said simply, whatever form that takes. Vishara studied him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and gripped his shoulder, a gesture of trust among Jirok warriors. You took a wound, she observed. His arm was bleeding from shrapnel. It is nothing. Come, I will treat it. She handed Kessa to her teacher and led Marcus to the medical bay. As Vishara cleaned and sealed his wound with practiced efficiency, Marcus asked the question that had been building for months. Why do you really keep me here? The truth, Vishara. Not Kreshva. Not duty. Why? Vishara's hands stilled. She looked at him, really looked at him, and he saw something vulnerable in her eyes. Because Kessa needs you. Because watching you with her reminds me that hate is not the only legacy I can leave. Because you are proof that the enemy can become something else. She resumed treating his wound. And because somewhere in these months, you stopped being just my prisoner. You became part of this household, part of this family. And I do not know what to do with that. Neither do I, Marcus admitted. The assassin was right about one thing. They will try again. Peace has enemies on both sides, and we are targets now. Vishara finished with his wound and met his eyes. I cannot let you go, but I cannot promise you will be safe here. I would not leave even if you released me from Kreshva, Marcus said. Kessa is my daughter now in every way that matters. And you are her mother. That makes us family, whether either of us wanted it or not. Vishara's expression was unreadable. Family. What a strange word to describe us. Strange times make strange families. A small smile tugged at Vishara's mouth. You have learned our combat forms. You speak our language. You understand our customs. You are becoming Gurok Marcus Chen, while still being human. I do not know what that makes you. It makes me Kessa's Kethfer. It makes me someone who will stand between her and danger, just like I did that day in the rubble. And now that includes standing with you against whoever wants this peace to fail. Vishara stood as well. They were close in the small medical bay, closer than they had ever been. Marcus could see the scars on her scales, the weight of command in her eyes, the grief she carried for her lost sons. We are a broken family, she said quietly. Built from loss and war and circumstances neither of us chose. But we are a family, Marcus replied, and that is worth protecting. Vishara nodded slowly. Tomorrow, I am called to the capital. There is a meeting of the Peace Council. Intelligence reports suggest more attacks are coming. Both our people are working together to destroy what we are trying to build. Then we build it stronger, Marcus said. We show them that peace is possible, because we are possible. In the doorway, Kessa appeared, having escaped her teacher. She ran to them both, grabbing Marcus's hand and Vishara's hand, connecting them. Family, she said in clear English, a word Marcus had taught her. Vishara looked at her daughter, then at Marcus. Something shifted in her expression. A decision made. Yes, she said finally. Family. And in that moment, Marcus Chen knew he was no longer just surviving his captivity. He was building something new. Something that terrified and comforted him in equal measure. Something worth fighting for. Part 4. When 2W. Worlds collide, they came for Marcus. In the middle of the night. He woke to a hand over his mouth and a familiar scent. Human. The smell of regulation. Terry soap and recycled air from human ships. His eyes adjusted to see 3 figures in stealth armor, faces hidden behind combat visors. Do not make a sound, one whispered in English. We are here to extract you, Marcus's heart pounded. He had not heard his native language spoken by another human in 8 months. The sound of it was almost painful. Who are you? He whispered back. Human Intelligence Division. We've been tracking you since your capture. We are getting you out. The soldier gestured to the window where a rappel line waited. Get dressed. We move in 2 minutes. Marcus did not move. How did you get past? Security? Does it matter? You're being held by the enemy? We are rescuing you. I am not being held. I am Kethfer. I am bound by Kreshva. The lead soldier pulled off his visor. He was young, maybe 25, with the hard eyes of someone who had seen too much combat. We know about their brainwashing. We know they have been conditioning you. But you are still human, Sergeant Chen. You still have family on Earth. Your mother thinks you are dead. Your sister mourns you. Marcus felt like he had been stabbed. My mother is alive. Yes. And she deserves to know her son survived the war. The soldier moved closer. Come with us. Come home. Marcus looked toward the door. Beyond it, Kessa slept in her room. Ashara was at the capital for peace talks. The compound was quiet. He could leave right now. These soldiers could get him off-world, back to human space, back to his family. But Kessa would wake up and find him gone. She would think he abandoned her. I cannot leave, Marcus said. The soldier's expression hardened. You are choosing them over your own people. I am choosing a child who trusts me. I made a vow to the enemy. A vow made under duress. The soldier leaned in. Listen carefully, Chen. We do not have much time. The Gurak are using you for propaganda. There are pictures of you with that commander's child all over their media. They show you as proof that humans submit to Gurak authority. You are hurting the peace process, not helping it. Marcus felt sick. He had not known about the propaganda. Bashara had not told him. There is more, the soldier continued. We need intelligence. You have access to Commander Vishara's compound, her files, her communications. You could help us understand Gurak military capabilities, could help prevent future conflicts. You want me to spy? We want you to serve your species, the way you swore to when you enlisted. The soldier's voice was urgent. The peace is fragile. Both sides are preparing for the possibility it fails. We need every advantage. You are positioned perfectly. Marcus's mind raced. He thought about his oath to humanity, his duty as a soldier, his mother waiting on Earth, thinking him dead. Then he thought about Kessa teaching him Gurak poetry yesterday, Vishara trusting him enough to leave him alone in her compound, the family they had built from ashes in impossible circumstances. No, Marcus said, I will not betray them. The soldier's face twisted with anger. Then you are a traitor. When we report back, human command will know you chose the enemy. Do you understand what that means? That you will never be able to return home? Your name will be marked. Your family will know you chose aliens over them. Each word was a knife. Marcus forced himself to speak steadily. Tell my mother I am alive. Tell her I am safe. Tell her I am protecting a child, and that I am sorry, but I cannot come home yet. She will not understand. I know. But it is the truth. The second soldier spoke up. We could take him by force. The lead soldier considered this, then shook his head. No. The Gurak would see it as an act of war. The compound is too well guarded anyway. We would never make it out. He looked at Marcus with something like pity. You are making a mistake, Chen. When this peace fails, and the war starts again, you will be on the wrong side. Right? They will kill you eventually. You know that, right? Baby. But until then, I protect Kessa. The soldiers moved toward the window. The lead soldier paused. If you change your mind, leave a message at the human embassy in the capital. Use the code word Emma. They will extract you. Then they were gone, vanishing into the night like ghosts. Marcus sat on his bed, shaking. He had just turned down rescue. Turned down his family. Turned down his own species. For what? For an alien child and her mother? Yes, for them. The next morning, Marcus told Vishara everything. She listened in silence, her expression unreadable. You could have left, she said finally. I chose to stay. Why tell me about human intelligence being here? You could have kept that secret, used it as leverage, because we are family. And family does not keep secrets that put each other in danger. Vishara was quiet for a long time, and she pulled up a holographic display. I have been keeping something from you as well. You should see this. The display showed news footage. Marcus saw himself with Kessa in the compound gardens. The headline was in Jirok, but his translator converted it. Human warrior embraces peace. Commander Vishara shows path forward. There were more images. Marcus teaching Kessa. Marcus training with Gyrak warriors. Marcus and Vishara standing together at a memorial service for fallen soldiers. You have become a symbol, Vishara said, not of human submission, but of the possibility that enemies can become something else. The peace faction uses these images to show that coexistence is possible. The human soldiers said it was propaganda. It is, but not the way they think. Vishara closed the display. I should have told you. I was afraid you would refuse to be seen publicly if you knew. I was using you, Marcus. It's just in a different way than they accused. Marcus felt betrayed, but also understood. You are fighting for peace the only way you know how. Yes. And I need you to understand something else. Vishara pulled up another file. We have intercepted communications. There is a plot. Human extremists and Gyrak militants are working together. Yeah. They plan to stage an attack that will look like the other side broke the ceasefire. They want to restart the war. Marcus read the intelligence reports, his blood running cold. When, within the month, we do not know exactly where or how. But it will be catastrophic. Thousands will die. And the peace will shatter. What can we do? Vishara met his eyes. There is a diplomatic summit in neutral space. Representatives from both sides meeting to strengthen the peace accords. I am bringing evidence of the conspiracy. But I need someone both sides might trust to corroborate it. Someone who has lived with both humans and Jirok. Someone who can speak to the possibility of peace. You want me to testify? I want you to stand with me and show them that we are proof peace works. A human Kethver and a Yarak commander, protecting each other's children. Protecting each other. Vishara's voice was intense. But if you do this, both sides will see you as a traitor. The extremists will target you. Your life will never be safe again. Marcus thought about the human soldier's offer. The code word they left him. A chance to go home. Then he thought about Kessa's nightmares finally stopping. Vishara's rare smiles. The family they had built against all logic and history. When do we leave? He asked. Relief flooded Vishara's features. 3 days. But Marcus, you need to understand what you are giving up. Your mother, your home, your people. I understand, but Kessa needs both of us. This peace needs people willing to fight for it, even when it costs everything. Vishara reached out and gripped his shoulder in the Gyrak gesture of brotherhood. You are braver than I gave you credit for. Or more foolish. Sometimes they are the same thing. Psst. Over the next 3 days, they prepared. Vishara coordinated with intelligence operatives. Marcus worked with diplomats on his testimony. And they both spent time with Kessa, explaining that they would be going away for a little while. You will come back? Kessa asked, her eyes wide with fear. We will always come back to you, Marcus promised. Both of you? Together? Vishara and Marcus exchanged glances. Somewhere in the past months, they had become a unit, a team. Partners in protecting their daughter and fighting for peace. Together, Vishara confirmed. The night before they left, Marcus could not sleep. He stood in the garden under the 3 moons. Thinking about everything he had lost and everything he had found, Vishara joined him. She moved quietly for someone so large. Nervous? She asked. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. She stood beside him, looking up at the moons. I've been thinking about what you said, about family, about what we have become, and I never thought I could care for a human. After what happened to my sons, I thought I would hate your kind until I died. Vishara's voice was soft. But you are not my enemy anymore, Marcus Chen. You are my daughter's Kethver. You are my household. You are. She trailed off, searching for words. Friend, Marcus suggested. Vishara considered this. Perhaps, or perhaps something our languages do not have a word for yet. The bond between former enemies who choose to become allies. The connection between people who protect the same child. Whatever it is worth protecting, Marcus said. Yes. Vishara turned to face him fully. When we go to the summit, They will try to divide us. They will say, "You are my prisoner, my tool." They will say, "I am using you." They will say, "What we have built here is impossible." Then we show them it is not impossible. We show them we are real. Vishara reached out slowly and placed her clawed hand over Marcus's human one. The gesture was simple, but profound. Trust between species that had killed each other for 12 years. "Whatever happens at that summit, I want you to know something," Vishara said. "You saved more than Kessa's life that day in the rubble. You saved mine too. You gave me a reason to hope again. To believe there could be something after the war besides grief and revenge." Marcus felt emotion tighten his throat. "You gave me a family when I thought I had lost everything. You trusted me with your daughter. That is no small thing." They stood together in the garden, human and Gyrak, looking up at alien stars. Tomorrow, they would face a galaxy that wanted them to fail. They would stand before both their species and declare that peace was possible because they were possible. It was terrifying. It was necessary. It was the only choice that mattered. "For Kessa," Marcus said. "For Kessa," Vishara agreed. "And for the future she deserves. One where human and Gyrak children do not have to grow up burying their siblings. Then we fight for that future. Together." Vishara's hand tightened on his. Not the grip of a captor on a prisoner, not the touch of enemies forced together, but the hold of partners facing impossible odds and refusing to back down. In 3 days, they would stand before the galaxy and tell their story. The human who shielded an enemy child, the Gyrak commander who honored that sacrifice, the family built from war's ruins. They would show the universe that yesterday's enemies could become tomorrow's hope, or they would die trying. Either way, they would do it together. Part 5. The shield that became a bridge. The neutral station hung in the void between human and Gyrak space, a symbol of fragile peace. Marcus stood at the viewport of their transport ship, watching the massive structure grow larger as they approached. Somewhere inside that station, representatives from both species waited to hear their testimony. "Second thoughts?" Vishara asked, joining him at the viewport. Too late for that now. They had left Kessa in the care of trusted guards back on the homeworld. The separation had been hard. Kessa had cried, clinging to both of them. Marcus's heart still ached from leaving her. "She will be safe," Vishara said, reading his expression. "I have my best warriors protecting her. And we will return to her soon, if we survive the summit." "Always so optimistic," Vishara said dryly. The transport docked with the station. As they disembarked, Marcus felt the weight of eyes on him. Humans and Gyrak filled the corridors, all stopping to stare at the impossible sight. A human walking freely beside a Gyrak commander. Not prisoner and captor, but equals. Whispers followed them. Marcus heard the words in both languages: traitor, puppet, curiosity, hope. The reactions were mixed, which somehow made it worse. They were escorted to a secure conference room where the Peace Council waited. 12 representatives, 6 human and 6 Gyrak, sat around a circular table designed to show no side had advantage. Among the humans, Marcus recognized Admiral Chen. No relation, but the coincidence of names felt significant. Among the Gyrak, he saw High Commander Zek, known for his hardline views. "Commander Vishara," Zek said in Gyrak, his tone cold. "You bring a human to this council? Have you forgotten who the enemy is?" "The war is over, High Commander," Vishara replied calmly. "The enemy is now anyone who wants to restart it." Admiral Chen leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Marcus. "Sergeant Chen, we have been trying to locate you for months. You were listed as missing in action, presumed dead. Your family has been notified of your survival, but they have questions. As do we." "I am here to answer them, sir," Marcus said. "Are you here of your own free will, or are you being coerced?" Marcus felt Vishara stiffen beside him. He answered clearly, "I am here by choice. I am bound by Kreshva, a Gyrak life debt, but I choose to honor it. I choose to stand here with Commander Vishara." Murmurs rippled around the table. One of the human representatives, a civilian diplomat, spoke up. "You ask us to trust the word of someone who has been living with the enemy for 8 months. How do we know you have not been compromised? You do not, Marcus said honestly. You have to decide if you believe what I am about to tell you is the truth. But I have information about a conspiracy that threatens this peace, and I think both sides need to hear it. Bashara activated a holographic display. Intelligence reports filled the air. Communications between extremist groups, financial trails showing cooperation between human and Jirak militants. Plans for attacks designed to look like treaty violations. We have been tracking this conspiracy for 3 months, Bashara explained. Elements on both sides want to restart the war. They profit from conflict. They gain power from fear and hate, and they will strike within the next 2 weeks if we do not stop them. The council members studied the evidence. Marcus watched their faces, seeing skepticism war with concern. This could be fabricated, High Commander Zek said. How do we know this intelligence is genuine? Because I have seen their operatives firsthand, Marcus said. Human intelligence agents approached me. They wanted me to spy on Commander Bashara. When I refused, they told me the peace would fail. They knew things, specific things about planned attacks. They are part of this conspiracy. Admiral Chin's face darkened. That is a serious accusation, Sergeant. Yes, sir. But it is the truth. One of the Jirak representatives, a female named Shara, spoke thoughtfully. If what you say is true, then we face enemies within our own ranks. That is more dangerous than any external threat, which is why we need to act together, Bashara said. Both sides must investigate, root out the conspirators, show them that our peace is stronger than their hate. Pretty words, Zek said. But you ask us to trust the word of a human who has been living as your pet, Bashara. How do we know this is not a trick? Marcus felt anger flash through him. Before Bashara could respond, he stepped forward. I am not her pet. I am Kethver to her daughter. I am shield parent, protector, family. Do you understand what that means, High Commander? It means I gave up everything to honor a Jirak custom. My home, my career, my own species trust. I did it because I pulled a Jirak child from rubble and chose mercy over revenge. If that makes me a pet, then your culture means nothing. The room went silent. Zek's eyes widened with rage, but Shara spoke before he could. You invoked Kreshva. Truly I did, Bashara confirmed. This human saved my daughter's life at risk to his own. He honored her with protection when he could have let her die. By our oldest laws, he is household. He is family. Shara studied Marcus with new interest. Then he has rights. The right to speak. The right to be heard. Kreshva is sacred. Kreshva is ancient tradition, Zek spat. It does not apply to enemies. The war is over, Shara said firmly. He is not our enemy anymore. He is Commander Bashara's household. And if she trusts him, we should at least listen. On the human side, similar debates erupted. Some called Marcus a traitor. Others argued that his unique position gave him insights they needed. Admiral Chen finally raised his hand for silence. I want to hear the rest. Sergeant Chen, tell us everything. Leave nothing out. For the next 2 hours, Marcus and Bashara presented their evidence. They detailed the conspiracy, named names where they could, showed financial trails and communication intercepts. They explained the planned attacks, the goals of the extremists, the timeline they were working against. When they finished, the council sat in heavy silence. Finally, Admiral Chen spoke. If this is true, we have less than 2 weeks to prevent a catastrophe. We need to coordinate security operations across both our territories. That requires unprecedented cooperation. It requires trust, Bashara said. Something in short supply between our people. Then perhaps we need an example of trust, Shara suggested. Something to show both our populations that cooperation is possible. She looked at Marcus and Bashara standing together. You too. You are that example. A human in Gyrak who chose family over hate, peace over revenge. You are proof that our species can coexist. They're also targets, another representative pointed out. If the extremists know about this testimony, they will come for them. Let them try, Bashara said. Her hand moved to rest on Marcus's shoulder. We have survived this long. We will survive whatever comes next.
Outs?
The council voted. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. Joint task forces would be formed. Intelligence would be shared. Both sides would investigate the conspiracy and move to prevent the planned attacks. It was the first real cooperation since the ceasefire. A fragile beginning, but a beginning nonetheless. As they left the council chamber, Marcus felt exhaustion wash over him. They had done it. They had convinced both sides to work together. But Vishara was tense. We are not safe yet. The extremists will see this as a betrayal. They will come for us.
Us.
She was right. The attack came that night. Marcus woke to alarms and the sound of weapons fire. He grabbed the plasma pistol Vishara had given him and moved into the corridor. Their quarters were under assault. Professional soldiers, human and Girak, working together. Just as the intelligence had predicted, Vishara emerged from her room in full combat armor. Stay close. We need to reach the secure zone. They fought their way through corridors, filled with smoke and chaos. Marcus used his human tactics, Vishara her Girak strength. They covered each other, moved like partners who had trained together for years instead of months. One of the attackers cornered them in a junction. Marcus recognized the armor. Human Special Forces. The soldier aimed at Vishara. Marcus threw himself between them. The plasma bolt meant for Vishara hit his shoulder instead. He went down hard, pain exploding through his body. Marcus. Vishara's roar shook the corridor. She was on the attacker in seconds. Disarming him with brutal efficiency, she dropped beside Marcus, her hands frantically checking his wound. You fool. Why did you do that? Family, Marcus gasped through the pain. Protect family. Security forces arrived, driving back the attackers. Medical teams rushed to Marcus's side. As they worked on him, he saw Vishara standing guard over him, her weapon ready, daring anyone to come closer. The last thing he saw before the painkillers took him was her face. Fierce and protective, and something else he could not name. He woke 2 days later in a medical bay. The first face he saw was Kessa's.
Wow.
She climbed onto the bed carefully, mindful of his injuries. Hey, little one. Marcus's voice was rough. What are you doing here? Mama brought me. She said you were hurt protecting her. She said you were very brave. Vishara appeared in the doorway. She looked tired, her armor replaced by simple clothes, but her eyes were bright with relief. The doctors say you will fully recover, she said, though you will have another scar to add to your collection. What happened with the attack? We captured several conspirators, both human and Girak. They are being interrogated now. The evidence we gathered, combined with what they have revealed, has exposed the full scope of the conspiracy. Joint operations are underway to arrest the rest. The peace. Stronger than before? Nothing unites former enemies like a common threat. Vishara moved to the bed. Standing beside Kessa, you saved my life. Again, I am beginning to think Kreshva was too small a debt for what you have given me.
Act.
Marcus smiled weakly. Just doing my job. Protecting family.
Act.
Vishara's expression softened. She reached out and took his hand, her clawed fingers gentle around his. Yes, family. Kessa looked between them, then grabbed both their hands and pulled them together. We are family. All of us. Yes, we are, Marcus agreed. Recovery took weeks. During that time, the joint task forces dismantled the conspiracy. Extremists on both sides were arrested. The peace accords were strengthened, and across both human and Girak space. News spread of the human soldier and Girak commander who had stood together against those who wanted war. They became symbols, whether they wanted to or not. The shield and the commander. Proof that enemies could choose differently. When Marcus was finally cleared for release, he and Vishara faced a decision. Both their homeworlds were dangerous for them now. Extremists still wanted them dead. Their families, built from impossible circumstances, would never be truly safe in either human or Girak space. There is a place, Vishara said. A frontier colony. New Hope Station. It is jointly administered by both species. Humans and Girak learning to build a settlement together. They need people who understand both cultures, people who can bridge the divide. You want us to go there? Marcus asked. I want Kessa to grow up somewhere she does not have to choose between her mother's people and her Kethfer's people. Somewhere she can be both. Somewhere we can all be safe. Marcus looked at Kessa, who was playing with a holographic puzzle nearby. He thought about Earth, about his mother, who he had only spoken to briefly via cum. She had been shocked, hurt, but ultimately understanding when he explained his choice. Family takes many forms, she had told him. If this is yours, then live it well. Honor it, okay? Marcus said to Vishara. New Hope Station. A fresh start for a strange family, Vishara smiled. It was genuine, reaching her eyes. The strangest, a Girak commander, a human soldier. And the child who brought them together? Do not forget stubborn, Marcus added. We are all incredibly stubborn. That too. They arrived at New Hope Station 3 weeks later. The settlement was raw and new, built on a planet that belonged to neither species. Humans and Girak worked side by side, building homes and farms and schools. It was not perfect. There were tensions and misunderstandings, but there was also hope. Marcus and Vishara took positions with the colony's Security Council. They trained the integrated defense forces, teaching both species to work together. Marcus showed Girak soldiers human tactics. Vishara taught human soldiers Girak combat forms. Together they built something new. Kessa thrived. She attended a school where human and Girak children learned together. She had friends of both species. Her nightmares faded to memory. She became the happy, confident child she was always meant to be. And Marcus and Vishara, two warriors from opposite sides of a terrible war, built a life together. Not as enemies. Not as captor and prisoner, but as partners. As family. One evening, a year after they arrived at New Hope, Marcus found Vishara in their garden. The settlement had grown. Lights from new buildings dotted the landscape. Laughter from a mixed group of human and Girak children drifted on the wind. Do you regret it? Marcus asked. Giving up your command. Your status. Everything you were before, Vishara considered the question. I was a warrior who had lost everything to hate. Now I am a mother, building something new. A teacher showing others that peace is possible. A partner to someone who once was my enemy. What is there to regret? Your mate. Your sons. The life you had. I will always carry them with me. But Korith would have wanted me to live, not just survive. To give Kessa a future. To honor their memory by breaking the cycle of violence. Vishara's voice was steady. You helped me see that. When you shielded my daughter in that rubble, you showed me that not all humans are the enemy. That mercy is possible even in war. And you showed me that not all Girak are monsters. That family can be chosen, not just born into. They stood together in the garden, watching Kessa play with her friends. Human and Girak children, chasing each other under alien stars. Laughing in 2 languages, building friendships that would have been impossible just 2 years ago. She asked me something today, Vishara said quietly. She asked if you were her father now. Not just Kethfer. Father. Marcus felt his heart skip. What did you tell her? I told her that you are whatever she needs you to be. Protector, teacher, friend, father, all of it. None of it. The word does not matter as much as the bond. Vishara looked at him. But I have been thinking about bonds. About what we have become to each other. And you are more than just my household, Marcus Chen. More than just Kessa's Kethfer. You are my partner, my equal. The one who stands beside me in everything. Vishara reached out and took his hand. In Girak culture, we have a word for this. Sheshver. It means chosen mate. One who binds their life to another, not by tradition or arrangement, but by choice. Marcus's breath caught. Are you asking me to be your Sheshver? I am saying you already are. We are already bound. Not by Kreshva, not by debt or duty, but by everything we have built together, by the family we have made, by the choice we make every day to stand together, Bashara's eyes held his. So yes, I am asking if you will formalize what we already know. Will you be my Sheshver, Marcus Chen? My chosen mate? Kessa's father in truth, not just in role. Marcus thought about the journey that had brought them here. The day he shielded an enemy child and changed everything. The months of learning to trust. The battles they had fought together. The life they had built from the ruins of war. He said simply. 1,000 times yes? Bashara pulled him close. Their embrace was careful, mindful of different anatomies, but genuine. Two species that had tried to destroy each other, now choosing love instead of hate. Kessa noticed them and came running. Are you hugging? You are hugging. She threw herself at them both, creating a tangle of human Gurok, laughter, and joy. Their family. Strange and beautiful and impossible and real. From that moment, life at New Hope Station became truly home. Marcus and Vishara formalized their bond in a ceremony that blended both cultures. Humans and Gurok attended, witnesses to the bridge being built between species. Marcus taught self-defense classes to mixed groups of children. Vishara worked with the council on integration policies. Together, they showed the galaxy that yesterday's enemies could become today's family. Years passed. The settlement grew. More colonies followed New Hope's example. The peace held, strengthened by stories of the human who had shielded an enemy child and the commander who had honored that choice. Marcus never forgot his first family. His daughter Emma, his life before, but he built something new alongside those memories. A life that honored both who he had been and who he chose to become. Kessa grew into a remarkable young woman. Fluent in both cultures, a bridge between worlds. She carried the best of both species in her heart and showed others that peace was not just possible, but sustainable. And Marcus Chen, the human who had once fought a 12-year war against the Gurok, found himself surrounded by family again. A Gurok mate who challenged and complimented him. A daughter who called him father in 2 languages. A community built on the radical idea that former enemies could choose differently. The shield he had raised over one child in the darkness had become a bridge between worlds. And that bridge, built with courage and compassion and impossible hope, would stand for generations to come. Some stories end in war, some in peace. This one ended in family. It's the kind that transcends species and history and hate. It's the kind that proves love is stronger than any weapon. The kind worth fighting for. The end.